Welcome to Studio A. Our guest today is Reverend Donovan A. Coley Sr., the Rescue Missions CEO and President. Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to this great conversation.
Let's talk about where you're from. Where are you from?
You know, I tell you, I was born in Kingston, Jamaica.
Uh-huh.
And I was born to a single mother who just didn't know how to take care of a 6-year-old girl and then a 3-year-old. So then at 3, my sister and I, we were sent to the rural parts of Jamaica.
Okay.
So we were raised by my grandmother.
All right.
In the back of a little grocery store where there was a bar. So I was raised in the back of a bar in Manchester, Jamaica.
Okay.
So that's the rural part. And then at about age 10 or 11, I was reconnected with my mother, my sister, my siblings, and my father.
All right.
And so grew up then in the inner city of Kingston, Jamaica.
What was that like?
You know, it was tough. It was the best of times and the worst of times when you were a child growing up in a third world country.
Yes.
And often you didn't know where the next meal was coming from, but mother got on track and she was a seamstress, so she was a dressmaker, and she would get up early in the morning and go to a little factory and she would do her thing, and my father then would drive a bus transporting people. And so it was also fun because, you know, there was always playing football.
Okay.
You know, what you guys call soccer. Yes. And then I went to a boys' school.
You did?
Yes. So my high school, it was called Kingston College, but it is really a high school.
A high school.
Run by the Anglican Church
in
Jamaica. It was the largest boys' school in the Western Hemisphere. We had 3,000 boys.
Oh my goodness.
So once again, you experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly of life in the inner city.
All right.
It was a school that was raised up for the poor.
All right.
In the inner city. But
and
that was also
what was
exciting.
Like?
You know, I tell you, the best part for me was being in the choir.
Okay.
And being a chorister.
All right.
And we were part of what is called the Royal Society of Church Music.
Oh, that sounds highfalutin.
So we were taught, and I started to learn to play the violin.
Really?
As well, and was exposed to all kinds of music.
All right.
And to sing in different venues. So here's an inner city kid trying to find his way through life, and then music did it for me.
Opened up the world for you.
Opened up the world.
Okay.
And so then I went to College of Arts, Science, and Technology in Kingston. It's now called University Technology. And within the first year, I realized that God was calling me to the ministry, so I went to a Bible college.
Oh, my goodness. So that's when you got called by the Lord.
Yes. So I was pursuing a business degree. I was 18 years of age.
And
at that
how did the
time.
Lord speak to you?
You know, I tell you, when I responded to Christ, so I surrendered my life to Jesus as a 17, 18-year-old.
Okay.
And I remember I was at home, and I was reading through a Gideon New Testament. You know, everybody gets these little Gideon New Testament.
Right.
And as I was reading, I could sense the Holy Spirit speaking to me.
Yes.
And I turned to a passage in the book of Acts.
Okay.
Acts chapter 13. And I was reading verses 1 and 2 where it said, "Separate for me Paul and Barnabas for the work to which I have called them." And those words resonated. In fact, it captivated my mind. And I knew without a doubt that God was shifting my focus as to where I would prepare for life and ministry. So I left the university and I went to a little school that was started by a group of missionaries from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Woodburn, Indiana, called the Jamaica Theological Seminary. It was a part of what is called the Missionary Church.
In Jamaica?
In Jamaica.
Okay.
So I went to that particular school, and I'm walking through my freshman year and my sophomore year, and a missionary from Woodburn, Indiana, he said, I believe the Lord is calling you to participate in an exchange program at a little school called Fort Wayne Bible College.
Uh-huh.
What he didn't know is that a friend of mine and I, we had won a music competition, and one of the prizes were 1-year subscription to Campus Life magazine,
Okay.
which is the Youth for Christ
Uh-huh.
magazine.
Uh-huh.
And when we received our subscription in Jamaica, we opened it, and you know, they have these little leaflets that would fall out of
Sure.
it. And sure enough, it was a leaflet that talked about Fort Wayne Bible College.
That's crazy.
So we knew
That's-
there was something about Fort Wayne Bible College. And then the missionary, shortly thereafter, came to me and said, how about going to Fort Wayne Bible College?
You know what? I said that's crazy, but it's not
Yeah,
crazy.
right.
That's how God works.
Yes.
That's how God works. So
Yeah.
you got confirmation
Confirmation, not
a
only.
few times.
Yes, yes.
A few times.
And I'll tell you, the best conversation came, you know, it came through the Word.
Sure.
Okay, so there was that subjective element where I sensed it, the Word, you know, also confirmed, but the godly people that were
Yes.
in my life also, because one of the top evangelists in Jamaica, as he knew that I was heading to America,
Uh-huh.
and also my buddy Ray was also going to head to America.
Okay.
The evangelist came and he was going to pray over us in our neighborhood.
All right.
And he opened his Bible and he flipped to a passage. He said, the Lord has given me a passage. It was Acts 13,
Oh my goodness.
verses 1 and 2.
Oh wow.
And so God was able to confirm that.
Yeah.
Ray and I looked at each other. And so as best friends and as brothers, we came to America. We married best friends. You know,
Your
so
wives
his
are
wife,
best friends?
Yeah, our wives are best friends.
Miss Grace.
Yes, Grace.
Yes.
Grace is my wife, and Ray married Judith.
Uh-huh.
And so we all came to Fort Wayne, and now Ray pastors a church in the Chicago area, and
Wow.
I'm in Fort Wayne.
You're in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
how has being in Fort Wayne been for you?
I tell you, so the first day I landed in Fort Wayne, so I was picked up by the school. The
Okay.
school sent this little van, and so this gal by the name of Lori drove this van, and she picked me up. And she turned the radio on, and as she turned the radio, the first thing I heard was, good afternoon, friends from Fort Wayne. This is the Reverend Gus Parrish from the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission. And that was the first voice I heard. And I
Really?
thought,
Really?
there's a rescue mission in Fort Wayne.
Oh my goodness.
So this was in 1982
Okay.
when I came to Fort Wayne.
All right.
And here I am so many years later.
Yeah.
But Fort Wayne was a shock, needless to say.
In
being
what sense?
a young African-American male in a school that was predominantly white,
All right.
and quite the limited number of African-Americans. I believe there were 3 or 4 of us
In your school.
in the school
All right.
as African-Americans, about 5, and 3 were Jamaicans.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 were Jamaicans. And so just to be able to navigate the landscape
All right.
and then trying to retain your identity, because you need to know who you are
Yeah. Yeah.
as a black male,
Uh-huh.
knowing that I'm in a predominantly Caucasian world.
Right.
You wanted to make sure that you didn't lose who you are, but to
Right.
function with authenticity.
Sure.
And so I had to navigate that. So the first thing I did, I became a part of a church on Oxford Street here in Fort Wayne.
Uh-huh.
And so South Park Baptist Church, and
Okay.
decided to be a youth leader,
All right.
to work with the inner city kids,
Yeah.
to really maintain who I was. So
Okay.
I wanted to become a part of the community that looked like me.
Yeah, of
while I was
course.
going to a school that was preparing me for ministry and life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did business. So I picked up from the business degree that I was trying to do at University of
Originally in
Technology
Jamaica.
originally, but then weave it with Bible and theology. So I ended up with a double major.
Okay.
So Bible, theology, and business.
All right.
Yeah.
How did those two partner?
And so for me, here's my rationale.
All right.
I saw how churches treated pastors and leaders.
Okay.
And often ministers don't really have marketable degrees.
That's true.
And I thought of the Apostle Paul.
Yes.
And if I'm going to pursue a calling where he did the dual, he did ministry as well as tent making.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I would maybe prepare myself for a bivocational type of a ministry.
All right.
Little did I know that God was preparing me for a nonprofit
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah.
And I could easily go the business path or the ministry path.
Right.
Because I would never allow my wife, who joined me in 1983, and then children years later. And so we have 4 kids.
4 beautiful children.
Yes, thank you. I just didn't want to be held hostage by any ministry or
Okay.
any church
All right.
in determining how I'm able to take care of my family.
All right.
So that's what I did.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you partnered with the rescue mission in what year?
So in 2006, I became a volunteer at the rescue mission.
Let's talk about what you did prior to 2006.
So prior to 2006, I did church planting.
Okay.
And I supported the ministry by being a real estate broker. So
Okay.
I was a part of a leadership team of one of the largest real estate firms in Fort Wayne.
My goodness.
And so I worked within the Century 21 system,
All right.
as well as did some independent brokerage.
Okay.
So I did real estate,
Right.
but I've always done ministry from the
Ministry.
pulpit, church planting,
Yeah.
and developing local churches.
So you've always partnered both.
Always done, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
both business and pastoring.
Yes.
So now let's talk about when you became part of the rescue mission.
So in 2006, I was involved with a church planting project
Okay.
on the southeast side of Fort Wayne in partnership with Good Shepherd United Methodist Church.
Uh-huh.
And a member of that new church plant was on the board. And she said, I think the rescue mission could use your expertise and your ability to bring health to the organization. Would you consider being on the board?
Okay.
And I reflected on it. And so I joined the board
All
as a
right.
volunteer in 2006.
All right.
And 2007 came around. And I was getting ready to resign in February of 2008 from the board.
All right.
And I thought, I'm just going to move on to some new opportunities and look at some other ways that I could serve
Okay.
the marginalized and the poor.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in a board meeting that same February, the very day I was going to resign.
All right.
And somebody in the board meeting said, we believe the CEO is in this room, because they were looking for a new CEO.
My goodness.
I had no thoughts of being the CEO
or president,
of the rescue mission.
mission.
And so I turned to a friend of mine who was sitting next to me. He's
Yeah.
an executive at Lincoln Financial. And I said, I think they're talking about you.
Okay.
And then he leaned back over and says, no, I think they're talking about you. And the place got hot. I felt this sense of, wow, I never really thought of it. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
right after that, the board looked at me and said, would you pray about it? And I said, well, okay. And so I went home and I talked to my wife.
Yes.
And 30 days later, I was installed as the president, CEO, senior pastor of the rescue mission on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2008.
2008.
When the economy tanked and
Yeah.
our revenue had dropped 27%.
My goodness.
And it was just a tough year to start.
Yeah.
So it all came about in March of 2008.
And what have you learned from being in that position?
So the first thing I had to do was I learned that you can't do life and ministry by yourself. And so you may have all the gifts and the abilities and the credentials. At the end of the day, it comes about with your reliance on God.
Yes.
And some trusted people.
Uh-huh.
And so it was important for me to develop a group of people around me
Yeah.
so as to build my capacity to lead.
Okay.
Because if I had gone in the flesh and think that the abilities that I had, whether it's in real estate or church planting, was going to equip me to do the work of the rescue mission and the challenges that lay ahead.
Uh-huh.
I would be overwhelmed by the
Okay.
pressure. And so slowly, I started to build a great network
All right.
around me. So I was able to connect with some solid CEOs and leaders in our community
Okay.
and become a part of the executive forum, a group of top-notch leaders in our community.
Uh-huh.
And so that was, that helped
That was
build
paramount.
yes, it was critical
Yeah.
for me to get the right people around me.
Yes.
John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid, where you see yourself, on a continuum, say
Okay.
from 0 to 10.
All right.
But if you see yourself as a 5 or a 6, you better get some 7s and some 8s around you.
Okay.
And so it was important for me to do that. So
Okay.
the first thing I learned, to answer your question, is never lead alone.
All right.
Don't think that your personality, don't think that your past successes
Uh-huh.
will catapult you and guarantee success in the future.
Okay.
Leadership is all about the people that are around you. The
All
law
right.
of the inner circle, we
All
need
right.
that.
And
That's the biggest lesson that I learned.
the biggest lesson that you've learned. What has been the most difficult thing about leading the rescue mission into the 21st century?
I tell you, it's the vision for us to be able to do something that was never done.
Okay.
And so the first thing that we did, we found the right philosophy. And so the philosophy that we developed and we were going to pursue is, how do we change the way Northeast Indiana address the issue of poverty and homelessness?
Uh-huh.
And so we had to make sure we had the right vision to tackle it.
Okay.
So we decided that we were going to change the world. And we wanted our people, our staff, to be able to look at homelessness and to look at the rescue mission as not only another nonprofit
Uh-huh.
who is self-perpetuating, because a lot of nonprofits exist just to stay in business,
Yeah.
but how do we bring about systemic change in the people that we're called to serve? And so it's not about the organization, it's
Sure.
all about the people.
The people.
So we had to shift our mindset.
Okay.
So we did
A
some
paradigm shift.
Yeah, a paradigm shift where we actually went through our own change as an organization. From
Okay.
even a board leadership shift, we implemented term limits to make sure that we're getting the right board members
The right
who
people.
understood governance
Okay.
and could get out of the weeds and then pursue a compelling vision.
Okay.
And so we had to shift our mindset and to position the organization because we were all about changing the world.
Okay.
And so with a solid board and a new emerging staff, we were able to make some changes in the city of Fort Wayne.
Okay. And how many people, first of all, let me ask you, what do we need to know about homelessness? What is the greatest myth about homelessness?
The greatest myth about homelessness is we often think that the cause of homelessness, and you'll hear this from political leaders, from folks who are with some of the governmental agencies, that it is a lack of affordable housing.
Yeah.
And that sounds right, lack of affordable housing. And that is true.
Okay.
We definitely need more in the housing stock.
All right.
Or you hear is the issue of mental illness. Now,
right.
mental illness is significant, and we need to destigmatize mental illness and really serve those individuals. We often think it is a trauma or addictions,
Right.
and those are parts of it. But the main cause of homelessness
Uh-huh.
is when individuals, they no longer have healthy support systems in their lives.
Okay.
And so you have to go deeper. And so you and I, in many cases, if I were to lose my employment at the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission, I do have enough friends and folks in my network that would allow me to be able to bounce back.
Uh-huh.
An individual who is experiencing homelessness, when you have lost those healthy support systems in your life.
Okay.
And often some of those family, friends, you name it. Yes, the ability to even pursue and find resources that you can attract to yourself. Because you know how to make the connections.
Right.
When you are void of that, and you are isolated, and you're even isolating because of your mental, health in terms of where you are, you are left with nothing. And so you lose your sense of humanity. You lose your dignity. And so there is something deep on the inside of you that needs to be filled. And we know ultimately it will be filled by a relationship with Jesus Christ. But you need the right kind of relationship. So it is when somebody loses the healthy support systems in their lives. That is the main cause of homelessness. So then, because it is so complex, then we need to come up with a comprehensive plan to be able to address that. And so what the rescue mission does, we have positioned ourselves to be able to walk people through what we call a continuum, through a process of change. And so when somebody comes to us, they're in crisis. And so they are still at risk when they come to us. And then we try to get them to a place where they feel safe. And then move them to stability. And then hopefully they can thrive. Throughout that continuum, I think what we need to do is to bring the right partners who are not there for self-perpetuation or for their own sense of, they're doing good work. But we then walk with partners from the place of crisis all the way through at risk, safe, stable, each step of the way. So that's what we do at the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission. Is to be able to be a catalyst in bringing resources around people so as to give them dignity and their humanity back.
Now the Rescue Mission was founded in 1965?
Well, 1903 originally,
was the original.
But then we moved to the older location on Superior Street around 1964, 1965. Yes.
So it's been around a very long time.
Yes, 1903, back in the day.
My goodness, my goodness. And the Rescue Mission is the umbrella organization for Life House, Restoration House, Cares House, and Treasure House.
Yes, so there are 4 houses that make up the Rescue Mission. So what most people know about the Rescue Mission is the emergency shelter or the food. That all happens on the first floor in Life House. But we are much more than that. And so for us, while hope begins with a meal, that is only the starting point for some significant changes. We now have not only the emergency shelter on Life House, but we have a community resource center.
And what do they do?
We bring in 15 to 20 other nonprofits.
Oh my goodness.
Remember we talk about this comprehensive plan? So instead of having somebody get on a bus and they have to travel, down on Decatur or Hannah Street to Fort Wayne Housing Authority, how about we have Fort Wayne Housing Authority in our facility? For them to be transported or get on a bus and walk the streets to go to Parkview Behavioral Health Institute, PBHI, why not bring them in? Especially if you're severely mentally ill and you go to PBHI and 75% of those folks never follow for a second appointment. So why not bring them in-house? So we actually have them in-house. And PowerWorks, Lutheran Social Services of Indiana. And so
they're all housed right there
housed
at the
and
mission.
They have access to our people. So that's the big difference with what we're trying to do, which is more than what the media or others will say we do, which is just the meals and emergency shelter.
That's all they see.
People's lives are at stake.
But you're doing much more than that. Much more than that.
Yes, we have to.
Wow. So let me ask you, the hours of the mission.
That's an incredible question. Rescue Mission is open 24 hours a day on the men's side. Unfortunately, there is such a need to working with women that everything literally gets shut down around 5, 6 o'clock. And so the needs for women, there's such a gap for emergency shelter.
Okay.
So what we have done as of May of this year is we're tackling emergency shelter for women.
Okay.
And so women can come to the rescue mission, and then we're able to provide them with emergency housing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about, we've got about 3 minutes left.
Wow, time flies.
It does go by quickly
Yeah.
when you're getting good information, brother.
Good.
You are stepping down in March of 2023.
Yes. And so I initiated the process. I felt it was time now for somebody else to take it to another level.
Okay.
And so, some of my friends have said, hey, are you being forced out? I said, absolutely not. I had a wonderful meeting with our board, and I shared this with them in March of this year. And I said, I'd love to do 15 years and a day.
Uh-huh.
And so since March 17th was my anniversary date, I said, how about March 18th? So I'll
Okay.
have 15 years and a day
Uh-huh.
officially. And what I'm looking forward to is the board will find God's replacement. So
Yes.
she or he, wherever they are,
Yeah.
right now the board is doing a national search
Okay.
and a local search.
All right.
And hopefully they'll find an individual to do that.
Okay.
But because the rescue mission means so much to me, my desire is to stay as long as the board needs me. So I'm not
okay.
looking for any opportunities right now. I'm not even interviewing or speaking to anybody significantly about anything beyond.
Okay.
So I'll be there as long as they need me. And then to do an onboarding
Yeah.
with the person,
Right.
maybe a 45 days, what
Sure.
board members and I have talked about.
Sure.
So I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
All right.
But I think I'm looking forward to the Lord closing the chapter at the rescue mission.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. You have had an incredible life, Pastor Donovan.
thank you.
A wonderful life.
To God be the glory.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me before we go,
Yeah.
why is it imperative to have the rescue mission here in Fort Wayne, Indiana?
If the rescue mission were not in Fort Wayne, I'll tell you, there is at least 2,100 unique individuals who would not be served. And those are the numbers of people who sleep
Oh,
and are resident at the rescue mission, not to mention the hundreds that come to the rescue mission for food or just to connect with the resources that we have to offer.
okay.
And the thing about nonprofit world, and this is how I get passionate,
Okay.
you can't dabble with addressing the issue of homelessness.
Right.
This isn't something that is that you show up and you just give them a meal or you give them a coat on the streets.
Uh-huh.
These are people's lives.
Right.
And so, 2,100 to 3,000 plus 3,000 individuals in total
Yeah.
would be displaced and not have a place to call home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Pastor Donovan, thank you so much for coming in. God bless and keep you, sir.
Thanks, Stephanie.
It was a joy.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in, and be blessed.